Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Let's Learn. Now, before we kick things off, I'm just going to go over some PowerPoint slides here just to get the picture of what is Power Apps. Now, before we start things off, I just want to put a face to the voice that you'll be hearing. My name is Angel, and I'll be your trainer for today. Now, for today's agenda, we'll be covering some of the basic navigations as well as the fundamental of how to create an application, how to connect to a SharePoint list, and finally, we'll show you how to connect your app to other Microsoft systems that you may already be using. Now, Power Apps is a low-code solution for building business application. Power Apps allows everyone to add business value by quickly and securely developing innovative apps to reduce inefficiency and solve business challenges. Power Apps lets you develop apps more effectively than compared to traditional coding methods. While anyone can get started with Power Apps, the platform enables professional developers to add more advanced functionalities to apps, partner to build complex mission-critical apps, or modernize legacy applications. Power Apps is a platform you can trust because it's backed by 100 plus Azure data centers and a 99.9% uptime guaranteed. Leverage amazing solutions like advanced AI, analytics, bots, and more, using the complete Microsoft Power Platform to transform your business. Power Apps is part of Microsoft Power Platform, which also includes Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. The vision for Power Platform started from the recognition that data is increasingly flowing from everything, and the belief that organizations that harness their data to gain insights, then use it to drive business processes will outperform those who don't. We have Power BI, where you can build reports and show insights and put into the hands of those who need it. We have Power Apps, so you can build your business applications, which we'll be focusing on today. We have Power Automate, which helps you automate tasks, so it gives you more time to do whatever it is that you need to do, as well as Power Virtual Agents, which helps you build out bots, no coding required. Now, today we'll be focusing on creating an app from a blank canvas. You can think of this blank canvas as how you would start creating a blank presentation in a PowerPoint presentation. It is up to you how you design and create. In Power Apps, you can also create model-driven apps, and you can build also external-facing websites using the portal apps. I'll be diving into a little bit more and explaining how these work in a little bit, but again, today's main focus is going to be focusing on a blank canvas. So let me go ahead and just jump into today's demonstration. Now, I'll be utilizing my Windows 11, but keep in mind that when it comes to Power Apps is a web-based application. So I'll be utilizing my Microsoft Edge browser. And before you can get to Power Apps windows, such as I am right now, I would suggest simply going to office.com. And when you go to office.com, you'll be greeted with this window, unless you haven't logged in which case it'll ask you to log in. After you log in, you'll be greeted with recent documents you've been working on. But if you want to locate the rest of your Microsoft applications, you'll have to go up to the upper left-hand corner where you'll see a waffle icon known as the App Launcher. From here, you'll see a lot of applications or Microsoft applications that you've been working on recently. If you don't see Power Apps on your window, just like I do here, you can just simply go to where it says All Apps, and under All Apps, it'll showcase all the Microsoft 365 applications that you have a license for. And you'll find Power Apps right over here. So you can always launch it, and it'll launch it within a different tab within your browser. So now that we're here, I just want to do a general overview of our Power Apps window. Now, like many Microsoft 365 applications, this is going to be composed of three main elements. You have your left-hand rail containing all your options, your main content area on the center of your screen, and your horizontal bar menu on the top of the screen. If you pay attention to the upper right-hand corner, you'll notice that I'm currently logged in as Nestor Wilk. He'll be a demonstration account that I'll be utilizing. So Nestor is going to build a application for the company that he's a part of called Contoso. So again, everything here is fictional. This is just simply for demonstration purposes. Now, right next to your profile picture, you'll find your question mark here for help and support, where you can continue learning today by finding out documentations. You can even go through learning portals and continue learning from there. And you can even go and access the community. So if you have any specific questions regarding Power Apps, I highly suggest going into the community, as it is built by end users like you and me. So you most likely will get better results by getting those answers directly from the community. Now, keep in mind that today is a level 100, and we're going to simply focus on the basics. Now, you have to be part of an environment in order for you to start creating applications. Because I am part of Contoso, I am part of the Contoso environment, so any applications that I save going forward will save to this environment. So it will neatly be stored in the cloud. I have my search bar here in the center, so if I need to search for documentation, applications, and so on, I can go and search for here. And if we go back to our left-hand rail, we'll find 3 lines here where we can collapse this menu. Now, keep in mind that this is just for more real estate. It doesn't do anything other than collapsing it. So when you get familiarized with what each icon represents, then you can always just simply have more real estate here. Now, we're currently on our home screen, and within our home screen is already giving us the option to create an application from here. I can create a blank app. I can start creating using Dataverse data, SharePoint, and so on. We even have some new added options here, which is Image and Figma. Image is a pretty cool way for you to create an application by simply uploading an image of a layout, and Power Apps will try to figure it out using its artificial intelligence. You also can have our learning portal here, so we can continue learning, and they will be tagged over here for beginners, for intermediate or advanced, and you can continue learning at your own pace, and you'll even see the time frame. As finally, towards the bottom, the last thing you'll find is application that you've built or applications that's been shared with you. Now, if we go back to our left-hand rail and we go to our learning right below our home, it's just going to give us more options so we can continue learning. Our apps is where we're going to find, again, the apps we've built or shared with us. We also find our create, where we'll find the same options so we can start creating from here. And we'll find a Dataverse here. The Dataverse is where all your organization data will be stored. So if you're looking to create tables, that's going to be part of your entire organization that your colleagues can pull from, so the application will be working for everyone. They can pull directly from the Dataverse, either from tables, choices, your connectors. Everything will be right over here. Because keep in mind that if you decide to grab information from another source, outside of the Dataverse, you have to make sure that the people who are intended to collaborate with by utilizing that app have access to that source. So that's why the Dataverse is very important. Now we also have flows here if you want to connect more of the Power Platform. So flows would be our Power Automate. And we have our chatbots and our AI builder, which are part of virtual agents. But today we're going to keep it quite simple, and we're going to go ahead and create a blank app from blank. So we're going to go ahead and click on blank apps. And from here, we're going to have 3 options. We have our canvas, we have our model-driven apps, and our portal apps. Today, we'll be mainly focusing on a canvas app, which is the quote-unquote complicated way of doing it. But keep in mind that it's going to be quite simple since you don't really need to know any coding. Now, when it comes to model-driven apps, it's built from the Dataverse. Power Apps will build you a great-looking, fully functional app to act and interact with the data. With model-driven apps, there's no need to worry about choosing the app size, as it's responsive, meaning it works on mobile or on tablet with no extra work by you. You can define the relationships, forms, views, business rules, and more at the data layer inside of the Dataverse, giving you enough control to get your business results without writing all the formula yourself. So essentially, when it comes to the model-driven app, this is the least work required. And we have our portals, which are Power Pages here. So it builds a no-code solution Portals brings the power of no-code solution to building externally facing websites through the power of Power Apps interface. You can build an anonymous or authenticated website that allows users to interact with the data held in the Dataverse. The same drag and drop experience you enjoy when building apps is also available here. So, excuse me, I was just reading off the script here, but basically this is essentially creating external facing websites. It's as simple as that. Now, let's go ahead and create a standard app here. So we're going to hit create for a Canvas app. Now, before you create a Canvas app here, it's going to give you the option to add a name here. Today, we're going to create a simple application, and we're going to simply call this inventory. Now, keep in mind that what I'm going to be building today may not reflect what you do on a day-to-day, but you can get the details of what you need to do from this. Now, before you start, you can have two options here, which are your tablet format or your phone format. This tablet format is basically just a web view, while phone is your portrait view, so portrait or landscape, essentially. So keep in mind that you make sure that you select which one are you going to prefer most, because you cannot change it afterwards. So in this demonstration, I'm going to keep a tablet so we can create a web-based application. We're going to hit create, and we're going to get started here. Now, once you start building an application, you'll be greeted with a new window here, which is our App Studio. App Studio is composed of a lot more parts here. So let's go ahead and start off with our upper rail here. So you have the option to hit back. You have the option to undo, to paste as well. From here, you have the option to insert, which anything that you're looking to insert when it comes to buttons, when it comes to your forms, when it comes to pictures, all the insert options would be here. This is where you're going to get your data from, where it says add data, which we're going to go to in a bit. We have our new screen. Within our new screen, you can select what type of layout you want as well. You want a split screen, a sidebar, or a screen with a header and a footer. You also have the theme. By default is on blue. For today's demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and keep it on coral just so it'll be a little different. We have our background color. So if you need to also change the background color, you can do that. I'm going to keep it white. Quite simple today. We have our background image. So if you want to upload an image to the background, you can do that. And finally, we have our settings. From our settings, we can go ahead and rename this. We can also give this a description as well as change the icon. You can even add your own icon if you wanted to. For this demonstration, I'm going to keep it quite generic. And since today is going to be for inventory, I'm going to select an icon that looks maybe like a list. Perfect. Looks like a list to me. And since I chose that coral color, I'm going to go ahead and change it to that orangey coral, so everything could match more. Now, we have other options here, whether you want to share. You have a stethoscope here, so you can check here, for example, if you need to add accessibility. You have the option to add comments. So if you're collaborating with a coworker or someone on this application, you can add comments to make sure that everyone's on the same page. This is where you'll have the option to preview the application to make sure everything is working accordingly, as well as your save button here. Now, below this, you'll find a formula bar here. Now, this may look a little intimidating, but worry not. We'll get to this, and you'll see how simple it is to add these formulas. Now, if we go down to our left-hand rail here, you'll find also options so you can extend this. We're currently on our tree view. So as we select our tree view, this is where we're going to have all the items itemized right over here. We also have our insert and our data and media, which are all also right up here. I'll have options to incorporate flows by using Power Automate, or go into advanced tools to incorporate a chatbot as well by using Power Virtual Agents. And if we pay attention to our right-hand side, we have another pane here that gives us almost the same options as up here. If nothing is selected, you'll have the option here to change the background color. You'll have the option to add an image as well as position the image from here. Alrighty, now that we've discussed here the basics of the basic here, let's go ahead and start building an application. So to start building an application, we're going to start by pulling in the data. But before we do that, I want to showcase where I'm pulling that data from. So I'm going to go to my Office. I'm going to go to my waffle icon, my app launcher, and I'm going to launch SharePoint. Within my SharePoint, I currently have this team I'm a part of, which is called Sales and Marketing, which is a team site. And from here, I have my product list, where we keep track of inventory. Now, for today's demonstration, I want to go ahead and build out an application that can help me better handle this inventory by creating an application where we can easily just input and continue going. Now, we're going to go ahead and go back to our Power Apps, and we're going to pull that data. So we're going to go to Add Data, and we're going to simply write SharePoint. I'm going to select SharePoint from this list. I'm going to click Connect so we can connect to our SharePoint on our right-hand pane. And it's going to give me now the team sites that I'm a part of, or even the communication sites. In this case over here, I'm going to select my Sales and Marketing. And I'm going to select that product list from here. Now I can incorporate more than just one item from here, but I'm going to keep it simple again and just incorporate that product list and hit Connect. Now, once we connect that data, nothing's going to happen. There's actually going to be nothing shown here. And that's because we have to insert that item. So in order for us to do that, we're going to go ahead and go to our Insert. And there's two ways we can insert this. We have the option for Edit Form. And it's just as implies, we have the option to edit the form from the data we're pulling from. And we have the option for vertical gallery, so we can view the form. In this situation, I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit Form, so we have the option to edit that form. And as you can see, it added that form called Form 1 within our tree view. So we can go ahead and reposition this. I'm going to put this more towards the center. And I'm going to go ahead and expand this maybe a little bit more. There you go. And now that I selected Form 1 here, our Properties pane on our right-hand side will reflect what we have selected. Our first option here is Data Source. And this is where we're going to now show the data we just integrated. So we're going to click on the downward arrow. And I see that the product list is already available here. It's only going to be a few seconds. And that's already going to show up for me here. There you go, perfect. It's also picking up the coral theme as well. Now from here we have plenty of other options. It's currently showing 3 columns. If you want 1 column, it's going to show like this. We show 2 columns. I think 2 columns actually works best. So I'm going to leave it there. I can continue editing from here and adding background color if I needed to, but I'm going to keep it simple. Now, I also see that there's an attachments section here that I don't need for this particular list. Now, in order for you to delete, sometimes all you have to do is just simply hit the delete key, but in some cases you'll see a lock right next to it, meaning that you cannot, that item is locked, so you can't either delete, modify, resize, or anything. In order for you to unlock it, all you have to do is simply right-click and hit unlock. That easy. And now that I've unlocked it, I can hit the delete key on my keyboard and delete it from there. Or I can go to the item within my tree view, which each item is itemized here. And I can go to the attachment sections where I can delete it from here as well. Perfect. Now, I also have my notes section here. Within my notes section, I can also change this up by, again, by just simply right-clicking and unlocking it. So now I have the option to go ahead and customize this and change this. The reason why I go to my notes section is because if you decide to add notes to this particular section, it's only going to be a 1-line note. And you want to make sure that you have multiple lines to write those notes on. So our properties pane here is not only going to indicate what it has, but it's currently on single line, which is on this mode section. So in this mode section, I'm going to go ahead and change it to multiple line or multi-line. So we have more than just 1 line to write those notes on. I think that would be pretty convenient. Alrighty. Now, before you start building out a building out an application, it's very important for you to start planning out your site as well. So currently I have my screen 1 here. which is showcasing all the items which in this form within this form one. But I also want to create another screen where we can go ahead and view the information that we're inputting. Now we can go to the new screen option on the top bar, or we do have that option once again right within our tree view, where we have the option for split screen, sidebar, or a screen with a header and a footer. But we're going to go ahead and create a blank screen. And in this case, that way there's no confusion, I'm going to go ahead and rename these screens. I'm going to click on the ellipses here, and I'm going to have the option to either delete, to duplicate the screen, move down if I needed to make it the previous screen. But what I want to do here is simply rename this, and this is going to be our home screen. Not only do I avoid confusion, but it's going to be easier later on when I start implementing navigation. And we'll demonstrate that once we get there. And our second screen here is going to be our view screen. So we can view the information that we're inputting. And now we have our site planned out. Now for today, I'm just going to keep it very simple and only do 2 screens. And with what you'll learn today, you'll know how to add the additional screens if you needed to. Now from here, I want to go ahead and now add a header as well. So I just want to go ahead and incorporate a text box, which all I have to do is just go to my insert option here and select text label. From here, I can go ahead and now expand this, make this into a header by dragging this across, maybe this a little thinner. And of course, since I have the text box selected, our properties pane will reflect this. And we're going to go ahead and call this our inventory. There you go. I'm going to go ahead and change the size, maybe 50. I think that works. 50 is good. I'm going to go ahead and make this centered as well. And so it could better match our theme, I'm going to go into our colors. So I'm going to go ahead and select that coral color. And I'm going to make sure that the text as well is it's a different color here. So I'm going to select our text and make it white. Oops, that is not the text I just selected. Where is my text? Ah, there you go. It has an A on it, obviously. There you go. So that's a cool header. And I also want to make sure that I add a logo here as well. So I'm going to go ahead into my insert and go to my media section. Within my media section, I can go ahead and incorporate an image. And the properties pane will now reflect that image. So we want to go ahead and go into where it says image on our properties pane on our right hand side and select add an image. So from here we can go ahead and incorporate the logo. So if this is going to be for Contoso, let's go ahead and incorporate the Contoso logo here for this company. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. Perfect. Now there's also another thing here. If I start putting in the information, there's no way to submit this. So in this case, we're going to also have to add a button. To do that, again, we're going to go to our insert. And within our insert, we have the option to add a button right over here. Keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to add a button. You can also add an icon, or you can add shapes, and you can program these so it can function like buttons. But for today, we're going to keep it simple and select a button here, which is automatically already reflecting the theme, that coral theme. And I'm going to go ahead and now rename this into submit. There you go. Again, I have other options here if I want to change the color, change the font size and all that from here, but I'm going to keep it simple and leave it as is. Now, here comes the quote-unquote hard part. Now we need to program this button to make sure that it does what we want it to do. So in this case over here, we're going to go, now that we have our button selected, it's not only going to reflect within our properties pane, but it's also going to reflect within our formula bar up top. Currently, since we added a button, by default is on select, and that's where we want it to be. If you add a shape or an icon, just make sure that you select on select, meaning when you select the button, it does whatever it is that you want it to do. And here is now where we will add the formula for what we want it to do. In this case, we want it to submit this particular form. So all we have to write down here is submit, and it's already given me the option here for submit form. So I can click on this. And now I have to tell it what form to submit. If we pay attention to our tree view, the form that we've been working on is called Form 1. So that's the form that we want to submit. As we're writing it down, it already gave me the option here for Form 1. I can close the parentheses to indicate that I'm done with that. But not only do I want to be able to submit the particular items, but I want the screen to refresh so I can continue submitting more items here. So in order for me to indicate that, all I have to write down is a semicolon. That is not a semicolon. There you go. And now I can give it another task for it to do once it's done submitting. In this case, I want a new form to show up. So I want new, and there you go. New form already showing up here. And I want to indicate what new form I want to show up. In this case, I want the same form to show up. So it's going to be our Form 1. We're going to select Form 1. And we're going to close the parentheses to indicate that we're done. Perfect. So now that we've added that button and we programmed that button, that means that we're going to go ahead and able to submit that information. We're going to test that out in a little bit. But before I test it out, I want to go ahead and now pay attention to my second screen here, which is our view screen. In this case, I want to be able to view the information. So I'm going to go to the Insert option and select on Vertical Gallery. By selecting Vertical Gallery, it's now going to give me these options to select my data source, which I've already uploaded here, which was my product list. As I select that, it's automatically going to bring that product list up here. I'm just going to go ahead and center this. Maybe make this a little wider. And since this is looking a little empty, I also want to add a header. So I'm going to go back to my home screen, and I'm going to select my first image, which is the inventory header. But I want to make sure I incorporate the logo as well. In order for me to do that, I have to hold the Control key down on my keyboard and select the other image. So as long as I have the Control key down or pressed, I can select multiple images. In this case, I selected the header text and I selected the image. I can let go of the Control key, and now I can right click and hit on copy. Select copy. We can go back to our view screen and we can paste it right here. Perfect. And now all I want to do here is where it says inventory, I'm just going to select a blank space so I can deselect it. And now I'm going to select the text. I want to go ahead and rename this inventory to our view so they know what page they're on. Perfect. So now they're on the view screen. But there's also one other factor here. I have the option to submit the information I will put in, but I don't have the option to go to my other screen. So to do that, I'm going to add another button so we can navigate to that other screen. So again, I'm going to hit Insert. I'm going to select Button. I'm going to just move this button right over here. And I'm going to expand this so it can look about the same size. Again, if you want it to be the same size and for it to be, everything's for it to be accurate, you'll always have your properties pane on your right-hand side, so you can adjust that accordingly. But again, I'm going to keep it simple. And this text, I'm going to call it View. There you go. So now, once they submit the information, they should be able to hit the View option so they can view the information they just submitted. But we need to program this button to make sure that we can program it to take us to the next screen. In order for us to do that, we have to go back to our bar. Again, make sure that's on select. And since we want it to navigate, all we have to do is write exactly that, navigate. And it's going to give you the option right over here. And now we're going to tell it what screen to navigate to. If we pay attention to our home screen here, we have our view screen. So we want to select our view screen. As I'm writing it down, it's already an option here. So I can select on view screen, and I can close the parentheses to make sure that we are done. And I'm going to do the same thing within our view screen, because if we go and click on view and it takes us to our view screen, there's no way for us to go back. So I want to make sure that I add another button so we can go back to that particular screen as well. So we can hit on home. I'm going to select the button, and we're going to simply now write home within the text here on our properties pane. It's going to be our home. So if we click on this, we should be able to go back home, but we again need to program this. So again, leave it on select. And we're going to go ahead and program this here. And it's going to be, again, navigate. So it's going to be the exact same thing, but this time around, instead of writing view screen, we're going to write home screen. And as I'm writing it down, that option already populates. I can just simply close the parentheses to indicate that I'm done, and that's it. Now, in order for you to test these things out to make sure that the application is working as intended, there's two ways to do this. Your first option will be holding down the Alt key. By holding down the Alt key, you can go ahead and select. So if I need to select the view, I should go back to my view screen here. Perfect. If I select home, it should take me back to my home screen. Perfect. Now, when holding down the Alt key, it's limited because you can only select. If you want to write down your options here, you want to make sure that you go into your preview option on your upper bar here. So from here we're currently on the right-hand side. We have our preview button that looks like a play icon. We can click on this and it'll open up the application as is intended here. Now, keep in mind, it says no item to display. Sometimes all you need to do is refresh it. I just simply hit submit so it can refresh. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and now submit an item to see if it works. So I'm going to call this controller. Oops. Product name here is our GC33R. Product name here is, a product line is gaming, and our product type is gaming accessory. This is a red controller. It's going to be. I can add some notes here if I wanted to, but I'm just going to add an image. I'm just going to go back to my, let me see, we have our products. There we go. Select that red controller. Perfect. So now I have to submit this, but I programmed this with two intentions here. Not only to submit it, but also to refresh my screen so I can continue submitting other items. So I can click on submit. Perfect. Looks like it refreshed. And now I want to make sure that that item is there. I'm going to go to my view. I'm just going to scroll to the bottom here. Should be on the bottom of the list. Perfect. Our gaming controller has now been added with that red one. So it looks like it works as intended. Perfect. So now that I'm done here with this particular application, you can see it only took a few minutes for us to build out this application, doing it the quote-unquote hard way. But it's very important to know what each function does when you want to go ahead and modify existing apps that you build, maybe using the model-driven app. But now that we're done here, I also want to showcase here where you can also add comments to each individual item. So if we go to our Form 1 and we select the ellipses, not only do we have the option to cut, copy, paste, and rename, but towards the bottom, we also have the option to add a new comment. So if you want to be on the same page, if we're collaborating with other people on building an application, we want to make sure that we also add those comments to make sure that nobody is removing anything unintentionally. And speaking of sharing, you do have the option right over here to share. But there's also another option to share. We're just going to go ahead and save now this application that we just built. It's just going to be a little bit for it to save. And while it's saving, I also want to let everyone know that this information that I used a SharePoint list in order for me to create the app. In order for my colleagues to be able to help me out with this particular application, I also have to make sure that they have access to this data source. Currently, I see that there's 21 members here, and I have to make sure that I add people that are currently on this list, because if I add someone that's outside of this list, they're not going to have access to that data source, so they're going to have a really hard time trying to figure out the application. So make sure that you add them to the SharePoint list if that's your intention, or you use data from the data source, the Dataverse. All right, now that we've saved this, we're going to go ahead and click on back to go back to our home screen. We're just going to simply hit leave since we've already saved. And it's going to take us back to our Power Apps home screen here, where we can go to where it says apps on our left-hand rail, and we'll see that that option is here already, our inventory with our icon and everything. We can click on the three dots or the ellipses here, where we have the option to edit this if we need to modify this. We can click on play so we can actually utilize this if we want to utilize this from here. But you also have the option to share from here as well. When you're sharing this, all you need to do is write down the name of the colleagues you intended to share it with. For example, I want to share this with Alan. I can select Alan, and as you can see, the name pops up because it's already pulling the information from my organization directory. If I wanted to add Megan as well, I can go ahead and add Megan, and I can start writing down her name. I can also send an email with this invite. So this one over here is going to call, I'm just going to say here, check this app out. But one other option here is I also want to make Alan a co-owner so he can help me out with this application. In order for me to do that, I'm going to deselect Megan. And right over here, you have the option where it says co-owner. And now his name's changed on the bottom. It says now he's a co-owner while Megan is a user. So he can help me collaborate here with this particular application. Once I'm done, I can simply hit share. He'll receive an email with that message as well as stating that he is currently a co-owner as well. Now, the second way to share this is sharing it out to your group within Microsoft Teams. So we can go ahead and click on the three dots. And from here, we already have the option to add to Teams. So we can select this. And we can select right over here within our right-hand rail where it says add to a team or add to team. I'm going to go ahead and just simply add this to a web-based version. So I'm going to click on use the web app instead. And now when you add it to your Microsoft Teams, there's one of three ways you can do this. The first option by default is going to go ahead and be a personal app. So currently I can see that this inventory app is now available for me to add. But if I click on add, it's simply going to add it to my personal left-hand rail here. If we click on the downward arrow here, we have the option to add to a team or add to a chat. I want to go ahead and add this to a team. And because I'm pulling this information from my sales and marketing, I want to go ahead and post this to my sales and marketing general channel, which looks like Nestor's not a part of. No worries. We're going to go ahead and simply click on a random channel, our drone advancements. We're going to hit Setup tab. It's only going to be a few seconds here. And it's going to give me the option right over here where it says Post the channel about this tab. I'm going to select this on so everybody knows that I just added this to this particular channel. I'm going to hit Save. And now it should load up exactly as intended. In this case over here, it says getting your data. Sometimes it just needs a little refresher where you can simply hit submit and it should refresh that data. Perfect. So you can see it's within this channel and it has its own separate tab here. I can go back to my post and continue posting here, and I can see that that post has been added for that inventory app. And I can go to the app directly here where it says inventory. And again, I can just simply go to the views so I can view what's going on over here. I can hit home to go back, and everything is functioning as intended. Again, when the item doesn't refresh here, all you have to hit is really submit or whatever it is that you tend to put so it can refresh that data. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is also creating an application directly from the source. So we're going to go ahead and just simply open up our SharePoint site, and we're still currently here on our sales and marketing team, and we're currently on this product list. If you're looking to create an application directly from the source, you can do that too by simply clicking on integrate. And within this integrate option, there is the option here where it says Power Apps, where I can create an application directly from the source without any coding necessary. So we can click on create an app, which will open up a right-hand pane here. And you can go ahead and name this. Now, we've already created an inventory app, so it's going to tell me that that name is invalid, or you need to create another name since we've already used it. But I want to showcase how easy it is to do a mobile application from the source. We're just simply going to call this inventory mobile. I'm going to go ahead and click on create, and by putting in that keyword mobile, Power Apps artificial intelligence is going to automatically determine that you want a mobile application using that data. So it's only going to be about a minute or so for it to figure that out. Give me a fully fledged working application with buttons, pages, and everything. Where again, all I had to do was give it a name. Perfect. You see how fast that was. It already created an application for me, a mobile application, using that same inventory data. So if I go down to my tree view, I can see here that now there are 3 options. So I have my browse screen, I have my detail screen, and I have my edit screen. If I needed to change these around, I can simply go to the ellipses and I can move up. I can also change these by programming these different buttons. As you can see, there's an X or an X or a check mark, as well as trash can or edit. So all the buttons and all the layout have now been added for me, again, where I don't have to do much of anything. That was just the last trick I want to show you. As you can see, it only took us a few minutes for us to create a powerful application, as well as only 2 seconds for us to create a mobile application. Now, with that being said, I want to go ahead and just simply conclude what we've learned today. So today we've learned quite a few things. We learned to navigate Power Apps interface, both the home screen as well as the App Studio. We learned how to connect to the SharePoint list, how to build a Canvas app, an app from scratch, and we understood how to integrate that to our teams. And lastly, within our next steps, we learned how to efficiently create a mobile app within just a few seconds. With that being said, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.